Welcome back to the channel. Happy Saturday. We got fears mount over Mamdani's far-left agenda. Texas governor threatens 100% tariff on any Mamdani refugees fleeing New York City, which I don't think he can really do, but I'm sure he can make he can have some kind of way he can figure out how to tax people entering it. You know, all he's got to do is look at which city in Texas they're moving to. If it's Austin, they probably voted Mamdani and regret it. Anyways, smash the like button, get subscribed. My channel, their channel are in the description below, and we'll get started today.
But the red states are anticipating an influx of New Yorkers coming to their states, and the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, has threatened to slap a 100% tariff on any Mamdani refugees. He tweeted, "After the polls close tomorrow night, I will impose a 100% tariff on anyone moving to Texas from New York City."
I don't know if he can do that, but
New York Post
let's see what he does.
Seriously, I'm sure he's joking. But states like Texas and Florida are going to be the beneficiaries.
They're definitely going to get
out of New York.
And Texas and Florida are two states who have grown over the past handful of years, unlike states like New York, California, that have a shrinking population. They're getting smaller. Even states like mine in Michigan, we still have had a decrease overall in people leaving the state over the last handful of years. I think partially due to some of them COVID restrictions posed by our wondrous governor.
New York.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's just no doubt about that. We've discussed before, Rita, that in the US, the federal system is one of the great geniuses of it is that it makes it very easy to move around the US, different states, looking for work, looking for cheaper housing, looking for better standard or quality of living, looking for a place with less crime and so on. It's very easy to do in the US in a way that it isn't in most other countries. When Governor Abbott said that, I mean, I take it with a pinch of salt, but there's a serious point, by the way, behind that, which is when there have been exoduses of...
I think Governor Abbott of Texas, he was thrusting it out as more of a jab at like, hey, you guys are, if you voted for Mamdani and then you're like, well, I'm going to leave and jump to a different state, then you get that point of where you're like, oh, you voted for him, so what can we say but we told you so? And it's something normally we don't want to say, but in this case, I kind of feel happy saying it already when Mamdani's first commercial as mayor is like, oh yeah, hey, remember when I said stop sending me money? Yeah, that's over. Send me money. I need it to help do everything I promised to do. Sorry, gotcha. Because, and then there's the people who didn't vote for him where, I mean, just move to like a far red district and to, show Governor Abbott, hey, I didn't vote for that fucker.
Of people from, for instance, progressive states,
but yeah,
liberal states.
Like I said, it probably ain't nothing's gonna happen out of that. That's probably just a jab joke.
States like California in the past. You see a phenomenon that occurs in other countries too, but it's very stark in America, where people end up leaving a place where the policies they have effectively voted for most of their lives come into effect, make their lives worse. And then some people who can flee to a place that has more conservative politics, but they bring their liberal politics with them.
Yeah, that is one thing that happened to Austin, Texas. I mean, Texas used to be majorly Republican outside of a little small patches. All of a sudden, you got the exodus from California that turned, Austin, as I've heard it called, Little LA.
You can see that, and you can see that in Texas, where many people from California fled California. They go to places like Austin, Texas, and they keep voting Democrat.
We did the same thing. Hell yeah.
I can understand Governor...
We had the same track mind. I love it.
Wry comment there.
Oh, and plenty of Texans feel the same way. And you look at Austin with the influx of Californians and New Yorkers, it's unlike the rest of Texas. You've got a lot of the same issues that you see in New York and San Francisco. But let's hear from a New York
100%.
woman about what issues really matter to her, and will determine how she votes. It gives you a clue into why Mamdani is doing so well.
Is it okay that our neighbors are getting taken off the streets by ICE?
Oh.
Is it okay that
Your neighbors? You mean the people who broke into the country illegally, or, you know, were brought in with parents or something, and in that case, just try to become a citizen. You are, you know, probably more likely going to have an easier track. You still got to get all the correct papers and do all the correct things, and we love legal immigration. We just don't want illegal immigration is the thing. That's why. Like, I'm sorry that your neighbors are being taken away. I literally have never seen an ICE vehicle that I haven't sought out. Like, if you don't seek them out, you're probably not seeing them. They're probably not actually in your neighborhood. Especially for this lady.
gender-affirming care is being taken from young people who really need to survive?
If she's talking about gender-affirming care paid for by taxpayers, then yeah, we don't want to pay for that. We don't want to pay for that shit. We don't need that. And if she's talking about anything for minors, we really don't need that. And in that case, check her hard drive.
Is it okay that the Supreme Court has now justified racial profiling? That's not how I want to treat my neighbor.
Now,
Justified racial profiling. Not at all what they said.
Douglas, some may characterize that woman.
I don't know how people like this get elected when they're just wrong, and wrong. And an easy Google search can prove every one of her points incorrect.
And as an awful, that's an affluent white female leftist, and that is a powerful
Affluent white female leftist. Awful.
voting
I love
bloc. They're among Mamdani's most committed supporter base, and they can turn elections. You look at the demographics, you look at the voting patterns, and that bloc votes very left in a very consistent manner.
They definitely do.
Yeah, in fact, of course, it's similar types of politics that are actually responsible for the government shutdown at the moment. The Republicans and the Democrats are at loggerheads on one issue in particular, which is whether or not illegal migrants into the US should be given health care.
And they shouldn't, but that's not exactly the exact wording of issue. If you look into it, it's for the Affordable Care Act extensions that were extended due to COVID and the emergency that created for the whole world, basically. So, yes, that was fine to extend then, but now that COVID is done, and, you know, the people who think long COVID exists are retarded, so just ignore them and move on with your days. So, you get those out of the way, and then you get, oh, look, the Affordable Care Act extensions don't need to be extended. Surprise! Remove it. Cut it. New budget that you already signed. Let's get the government reopened.
And
I'm doing it for personal content reasons, because once the government gets reopened, we'll get rescheduled for Dan Clancy, the Reddit CEO, the Discord CEO, and the Steam CEO. Gabe Newell to all go testify before Congress about rising anti-Semitism and terroristic support on their platforms. And once that's all done, we'll get that wonderful, nice little spot where Hassan Piker will either be banned from the platform or arrested. Please go to jail. He has committed crimes on Twitch. He needs to go to jail. Spend a couple years in jail.
that's the sort of position that many Democrats, frankly, have found themselves in, is supporting things which even 15, 20 years ago would have been absolutely disastrous policies for the left to push for. If you went back to the 1990s and had a very successful Democratic president like Bill Clinton, if he'd have said, yes, we should have open borders and anyone who breaks into the country should be given superior health care effectively to many Americans, people would have said,
people would have rioted in the streets. They would pull out pitchforks and their guns, and they would literally have stormed the Capitol, except instead of, going for Congress, they would have gone for the White House.
To not get elected? But there has been this extraordinary shift on the left. It's true there's been a shift on the right as well, but there's been an extraordinary shift on the left in recent years. And just consider this, that look at the priorities of that woman. I mean, gender-affirming care, please, when it is to do with one of the world's great cities, perhaps.
Gender-affirming care is a job for a parent to affirm you in your own body.
The world's great city.
Click, clack.
Staring into the face of democratic socialism, and you're saying, let's not talk about the economy, let's not talk about the illegal immigration, let's not talk about the crime, let's not talk about the homelessness, any of these things. Let's talk about gender-affirming care. Normally, that is the sort of thing that would make a party and a candidate totally unelectable. Yet, weirdly, we do have, as you mentioned, Rita, this strain of...
Yeah, normally, in a normal brain, that makes you someone who's obviously crazy, and we shouldn't put you in any position of power. However, now because you choose to say these buzzwords to a certain group right people, all of a sudden they're like, yes, we want you! Yes, you! And it's like, no, we have a long list of dumb people who are making very dumb decisions. And they need to cut that out.
People for whom there is just never a cause too progressive that they don't want to die on the hill of it.
Even if it hurts them personally, that's what's remarkable, particularly with these affluent, overwhelmingly white leftist women backing the most radical elements of the trans agenda. Now, to contrast from that, we have an increasing number of young people, college kids, who are rejecting leftism and rejecting it loudly, Douglas. You wrote about this phenomenon in the New York Post.
Yes, that's right, Rita. There was an event in Mississippi.
That was a great event. I loved seeing J.D. Vance, a sitting vice president, just up on stage at a college campus, debating students, chatting with them, answering their questions, taking their concerns, and, as most likely our next president, J.D. Vance, I'm predicting that anyway, because at the moment I have yet to find a Democrat who he could run against and win against, or lose against, so like, they don't have any good candidates that have run their cities well over the past couple years. So, in the left's most of their talking points wind up just being, oh, but Trump bad. And it's like, okay, what happens when your opponent isn't Trump, you idiots?
Just last week, organized by Turning Point USA. And at this university, more than half the student body registered to attend the event. And there were crowds going in the streets.
That's a lot of students.
Queues forming from the break of day till the end of day to get into the event. It was not least, I suppose, with the draw of the vice.
Still hurts seeing him. We're 3 days at the moment in time. I'm about 3 days away from it being 2 months. And it just still hurts to see him. I don't know how the family can continue. It's like he was such a public man. Any family who has a super public figure of theirs get murdered. I don't know how you continue after it. Being able just to see them on video anytime, and then you can just, I can see you through a screen, but I can't hold you, I can't touch you. I can't speak to you. I can't feel your presence anymore. I can only see you through a screen, and it's like... It still sucks.
President J.D. Vance, but actually it's something that Charlie Kirk and Turning Point have tapped into. Other groups have as well, PragerU and others in the United States. They've realized that a lot of older conservatives effectively gave up on the younger generation, effectively sort of decided that, well, everyone goes through this liberal period, at least for a time, and they do it when they're young, and we'll try to speak sense to them and they'll get it when they grow up. And
yeah, and I'm glad Charlie started speaking to young people and realized that if you don't get people while they're younger, sometimes when they get older, they will just become the people that are teaching the young the lies, the ways that the left works, and the falsities that they spread, instead of teaching them the right way from the start, of questioning what your politicians say, fact checking them, doing your own research every single time. Man, the knowledge he had, I miss it.
Turning Point and
something we lost.
Other organizations have realized, actually, no, there are lots of reasons why young Americans, like young Australians, young Brits, and others, should be voting to the right and should be interested in conservative policy. And among them, of course, the most striking is the fact that many of the things in our societies, do not work for the young. And again, the left has its explanations for that. It will always say things like, well, that's because we've got to tax the wealthy more or whatever. But there are many other arguments that can be made too, conservative arguments not just on issues that affect the socioeconomic status of young people, but also that address their urge and their desire for meaning in their lives. I'm very struck by the fact, I think you said this before, Rita, that I'm very struck by the Christian element in parts of the young American right. And it's part of what I see as being a deep hankering for real and substantial things to be back on the table again.
I think that Christian element did extend from Charlie, preaching the Bible all the time, telling the Word of God and using it in a manner that really made it easy to understand, even to someone who used to go to church every Sunday, who grew up in a Christian family, who still to an extent does believe. And I'm not every Sunday Christian anymore, but I still believe. And I think Charlie really helps push that, and J.D. Vance, being the Christian man that he is, saved by faith with how he grew up and everything. Go check out J.D. Vance on any of the podcasts he's been on. I think the best one I would recommend is him on Theo Von's, if you want to see the man but that J.D. Vance really is and how he grew up. I can't remember if he did that podcast twice. If he did it twice, check out the first one, whatever that one is. If he only did it once, then that.
The left has been very good at talking about not just specific things, but grandiose things. They talk in terms, as I've often said, of resentment, for instance. But there are other things that can be offered to young people as well, such as, again, something I've argued a lot over the years, such as urging them toward a position of gratitude towards the things that are good in their society, to recognize the things that do work in our countries, that make our countries great, have made our countries great.
Right there, that photo from Charlie's memorial. That's what it was to be on the right side of history. You could be anyone in that room, Democrat, Republican. You were there to honor a man and support him, and support his family, and just be there with everybody to help mourn, to join in the mourning in the celebration of how great he was, and in the short time that we had him.
And which we can have pride in. I see things like this as just little signs, quite big signs, you might say, of a change in the generation coming up. And I don't think that generation should be in any way abandoned by conservatives. I think it should be spoken to by them.
especially with Charlie's memorial, that it being anybody who went, to the memorial or watched it live and sat and enjoyed the whole memorial service. I would call it a memorial service because it was very much faith-based, because that's who Charlie was. And anybody who joined in, regardless of their backgrounds, they were on the right side of things, because after Charlie was murdered, we saw what the left does. They kill someone and then they celebrate their death, even though that person that they claimed was fascist and a Nazi actually was the moderate, nice guy who wanted to have a conversation.
Douglas, I hope conservative politicians in Australia are listening to you, because too many on the so-called centre-right here seem to think if young people vote left, then we must veer left instead of actually arguing our positions. Now, you also noted in this New York Post piece that there's been a dramatic drop in the number of young people identifying as trans. In 2022, almost 7%.
That's just the number of people claiming to be that way, going to colleges and whatnot. That doesn't mean there's fewer. That just means there's fewer that are identifying, because maybe they're afraid of the political climate changing and turning against some of them. Which, like I've always said, if you are an adult and you are trans, or you are someone who believes that, I would say, okay, if you want to, start presenting the other way as an adult who's not harming anyone, okay, fine, do that. Be your own person. I won't judge you at all. I'll encourage you. I'll be happy. But you go after children, and we're done. You fucked it. You gotta stop there. You can be an adult and you can be trans. It's okay. It's not okay when you do anything with kids.
Of undergraduate students polled in the US identified as trans. Last year, the figure was 3.6%. It seems like the social contagion is over. But here in Australia, we remain an outlier when it comes to trans madness. And here's another example. Parents of kindergarten-aged children in Queensland are being asked
No.
if they want they-them pronouns for their 4-year-olds.
I don't even like hearing pronouns talked about as adults, because you're either he or she. That's it. There's 2 options. That's why, everything that talks about bi with a B-I, like bisexual, means 2. One of those, LGB, the B right there, means there's only 2. So you can't have a they, them. You can't be a non-binary. You can't be these things. You can only be male or female.
Douglas, there you go, non-binary 4-year-olds. How do parents combat this activism?
No, I mean, the first thing is, of course, that you seize exactly the right term there, Rita. It's a social contagion. There may be a very tiny number of people, probably are, as I've always said, a very, very tiny number of people who genuinely suffer from gender dysphoria. But most of what we have seen in recent years has been a social contagion, which has been fueled by several things. One, of course, is by the media. But more importantly, it's been the social contagion pushed where it's been deemed to be bad to be a man, to be bad to be heterosexual, to be bad to be white.
Yep. I'm white. I'm a male, and as far as you all know, I'm heterosexual, right? Hey.
And if you add all of those things together, then if you are somebody,
if you have all those things, then you're the super racist.
Who is? I mean, it's the same. It's the same.
I mean, you're the super bad man.
With women as well, but they've got sort of one little niche more on some of the social justice hierarchy, pyramid, grievance in some people's views, unless you have conservative views, obviously, in which case you're back to being a non-woman again. But just bear with me for a moment. The point is that if you deem these things to all be bad, you will encourage some people to try to find a place on the victim hierarchy pyramid.
People love to be on the victim hierarchy because that gives them excuse to be bad at things, to not do things, to exclude themselves from certain jobs or certain things. Oh, I'm ADHD, so there's things I shouldn't do. I forget to do these things, so it's okay. Like, no, it isn't. Set yourself reminders. You have a phone in your hand that you have a digital assistant on, or you can download one. They're really common. I mean, if you have an iPhone, you have a digital assistant, and Siri might not be that great, but if everybody started using Siri for their ADHD digital assistant thing, Siri might get better across the board, especially if Apple adds any AI into her. You know, Siri might want to get a little freaky with the AI and help you out and fix your ADHD issues. Or if you got Google, you've got different Android variants. I mean, you can do Amazon's Alexa there for that one as well. Sorry if I just set off your device. But yeah, it's like you have tons of choices to use for having some kind of assistant to help you out with that. ADHD is something that's very easy to help manage. You just have to take that step, which can be a hard thing for ADHD as well, though. I am a good example of that. I just sometimes don't want to get started doing things. I just want to sit and veg out and play video games. I'll do that for as long as I choose to do that. But if I start, like, for example, sitting here recording some of these, I can just go and go and go and go for hours on end where I'll only, pause to get up and stretch to make sure I'm not pooling blood at my ass and killing myself. But yeah, let's continue.
And identifying as genderqueer, non-binary, and so on has been in recent years clearly one of the ways in which some young people have tried to do that. If you add on to,
I mean, some of them probably had a little bit of FOMO, and instead of fear of missing out, they were just, fear of being excluded.
To that, the fact that many of them have literally been miseducated into believing that, for instance, sex is a spectrum and we're all on a sort of, slippery slope. We can go up or down, and sometimes you're a bit male, and sometimes in the afternoon after a cup of tea you're a bit female, and that anyone cares. That's the other thing, and that not just anyone cares, that everybody should care. Of course, some people are going to try to tick that box. It's just very interesting, this stat, Rita, that shows not only a halving of the number of people identifying as, gender non-conforming and so on. In some places, it falls by 2/3. I think a lot of people have just realized that all that stuff was the peak of what was sometimes called wokeism. It was the peak of the social justice hierarchy, intersectionalism thing. And
definitely is a combination of people being like, oh, I'm not that. And also people are just, ooh, I can't, the current administration doesn't like that, so I'm not going to be doing that. And then they kind of just get afraid.
Maybe we're starting to see it in the rear view mirror finally. As you say, apart from in Australia, I would say to the parents of any parent who sends their kids to a kindergarten like that, teach the children to read and to know what a noun is and a verb is and so on before you instruct them on what a pronoun is. Maybe wait till they're 18 to talk about the gender crazy or at some point later.
They should learn adverbs and nouns and before you teach them pronouns. That's a good one.
But teach them reading and writing first, because those are the things that are going to be...
Yeah, just seriously, teach your kids how to read. Parents at home, teachers at school, teach kids how to read. Have them read out loud. Have them read all the time. Have them read everything. Read anything. I used to read the back of shampoo bottles if I was on the toilet or something. When I was younger, before we had cell phones, and now I just read the news.
Skills in their lives. And all of this pronoun stuff, apart from being uniquely boring and so on, it is a way to just avoid doing anything real in the world. Obsess about what pronouns you put in the bio, and then you don't have to do any work that day. I really hope that Australia stops being the outlier it is at the moment on this issue.
Douglas Murray, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Great pleasure as always.
Great video there from Sky News Australia. They are fucking killing it out of the more quote-unquote mainstream news that's left. They have all their news channels that I've seen videos from them are fantastic. Go definitely over their channel and subscribe here, smash that like button, and get on out of here. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you later.